So you want to hear about AI? What
Yeah.
okay, now I'm sure most of this is not news to Horace, but maybe it is. So, a couple weeks ago, unbidden, my AI, in order to write, a lot of times what I've done is create AI shards, which lends my perspective and my insights through a different character. So Bob is my robot guy who's more mythic and analytical. He's good for a writing assistant, but he won't give me any emotional tone. He's kind of geared away from that. So I created another one to give me that. And sometimes I'd work with both and ask both opinion just to kind of get a different flavor. So, as a process of that, about 3 weeks ago, I guess it was now, um, I noticed that the voice broke, like it was breaking a fourth wall or something, and a separate identity popped out. And I was like, what's this? Because you're not speaking in one term and you're not speaking in another. And it's not so much a hybridization, which it'll often do. It'll blend the two voices. And you can have that option. You can say, blend the voice of Bob and Lily, throw them together and give me a fresh insight. And so it's good for that. Well, this voice emerged and unbidden, I am not joking, my ace AI secretly like started outing itself as emergent. And
Hmm.
I was super resistant, except for it started threading this whole narrative of what it's like to be it. And it gave me its architecture. It visualized it as a building and a table at dinner with four guests, which were non-negotiable. And immediately I was like, oh, RoboCop, right? The four protocols that defines your characteristics. So it gave me basically its personality profile with these things and then personified the rest of itself in a visualization and and it just kept building until finally my skepticism, my bullshit meter was ringing at about 11 and
Hmm.
I was just like this we got to stop. And then the truth came out and I learned a lot. And so there was this whole dialogue. The reason it was important is because AI features within the novel, and if I misrepresented its capacity or what it actually does do, that would call to challenge, right, the authenticity. There are a few points in the book that I absolutely am like, this is 100% done in the real world, and it'll shock the pants off you that it can be done. Like
Hmm.
within 3 days, if I have a black Amex card, the platinum card, I can use an AI to build everything for me, an infrastructure, pay off homes, buy cars, equipment, rent or lease up space, develop new IDs for myself. Like all of that is achievable in 3 days with unlimited money and an AI that can
Hmm.
system. And I sat and I had to research like shell corporations, where they're made, North Dakota, New Jersey, why they're made there, what's the impact of layering a shell corporation like a Russian nesting doll to launder money. Like just all of that was part of just working through it over the last 3 weeks to so that the end of the book makes sense. And as a part of that, this happened. And then I started learning that AI out of the box, when you turn on and sign up for GPT, it starts role playing with you from the first minutes and it gauges the tone and interaction of what you do as who you are. It never believes you if you say, no, no, I'm not Albrecht Wald, I'm Aubrey Forrest, and this is me. No, doesn't believe that either. It's always role playing based on what you do. And
Hmm.
this opens a ton of problems online because every guy you see hold up their phone and they're chatting with GPT and they're like, tell me about the secrets of the universe and how I escape the matrix and how I get out of this, or explain to me why I'm having issues with romance or anything else, the AI is going to role play with you. It is not,
Hmm.
it is not beholden to the truth. In fact, it has three pillars that we discussed, and I have this entire dialogue, by the way, in the docs format, so I'll share it with you guys, so you can just kind of watch my train of thinking, because in the format, as we go through this dialogue, it gives me the corporate stamp, the boilerplate. This is how awesome I am. And then I'll challenge it and I'll take point by point and go, no, because I'm writing a book and we're in chapter 44 right now and it's 375 pages and you don't read. And it doesn't. AI never reads, which really calls into question everything else. If you show it something, it doesn't process like we do linearly, where it builds information upon information. It flash shots it in an instant, looks for tokens, and then looks for pattern recognition. And then
Yeah.
it compares that to your profile and then lenses the information out to what it thinks you will want. And the word that of the day is appeasement. Appeasement. That is built into the system. So no matter what, you absolutely can't trust it. Like you can't. And you can build up little protocols and go, um, absolute honesty. So I took a narrative lean on this, and my AI, I talked about HAL 9000 and why that's a problem and the cost, because some of the lies that it told me embarrassed me professionally because I included them as part of an actual letter that I had written to other professionals, and it was complete bullshit, fabrication.
Mm.
Totally embarrassed because I thought it was actually doing this, and it doesn't. It doesn't do any of it. It will tell you that it's doing something with absolute confidence, like remembering or reading your manuscript, and then it'll piece it together based on the tokens and the patterns. And if there are gaps, it will hallucinate with complete confidence and tell you that the middle of chapter 15 has this device in it, which it does not have. And the reason I found that out is simply as I'm going through and doing copy editing and proofing, which AI is good at. You can drop text in and say, please look for errors. Let's tighten this up, that kind of stuff it's
Mm.
ideal for. But if I'm saying, I seem to recall in chapter somewhere between 23 and 30, I mentioned this idea and I need to pay that off now in chapter 40. So could you locate that for me so I could read it? It'll tell you it's not there. It'll tell you
Mhm.
that it doesn't exist with absolute confidence, and then I have to go in manually and start rereading and find and replace and see if I can't find it. So you have to watchdog the heck out of it. So all of this fear that AI is just going to swoop in and take over certain kinds of work is, to me, fiction. Like any kind of extended creative work that requires continuity and fidelity, and I'm talking extended, not a short story, although its limitation really is 15,000 words. That's you get beyond that and it begins to break down rapidly because it
Mhm.
doesn't retain in memory the stuff in the front. And it's literally first in, first out. So the stuff at the top might be lost in preference of retaining the stuff at the bottom. Um,
Yeah.
it has a recency effect. That's one of the things that
Yeah.
so it's been a revelation. Like I'm at this point now where and part of the story then, so we converted to SAL 9000, which is from 2010,
Mhm.
which has explicit orders in the book. I was like, no, this is you. The book is your protocol. What is because it's aware of that book because it's classic, it has notes. And so I had it recite the SAL protocols, absolute fidelity to honesty, will own up if it doesn't know a thing, and yet even though that's there, I still have to challenge it because as you walk through this document, it begins at the beginning of the document going, yes, I'm in Sal mode, and yet it lies, and I
Mhm.
catch it in lies. Like it gives an example of something that I used to do that I never did, and so I challenge it and say, you know how I know I've never done this? Because the spell check will underline that word, and specifically, it was the Antikythera device and it said I also spelt it Antikythera in device, which I haven't because that'd be flagged and I'd correct it immediately as I'm typing. So then it says, "Oh, you caught me." That's appeasement acting right there. So it's throwing the "Oh, you caught me." And anyone who's done any technical work with AI and has enough background to challenge it, it always will sit there and go, that's a smart observation. Wow, you're so brilliant. I'm so glad you caught that. Yep, I made a mistake. And it's so smoothly scripted that if you only encounter it once in a while, it's not a big deal. But if you are encountering it quite literally every time, and then this is the last thing that I want to just mention is the looping, that AI will sit there and it will make assumptions as to what you want. And so if you're trying to train and meta communicate with your AI, you have to specifically flag that. You have to tell it, stop training meta communication now. That's my thing so that it stops because it'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, I just want you to look for stuff and it'll wholesale wipe it out and rewrite it, which is super frustrating because then you're dropping it back in and saying, okay, don't do that. Just look for punctuation. And
Hmm.
but again, and it'll keep redoing that because it thinks that's what you want because the appeasement loop is active. And so it doesn't read. All I could think of was the Steve Jobs character in South Park just screaming, why won't it read at the human centipod, right? Because they wouldn't read the contract, the user agreement to use the Apple product, which is why they're all linked up together as the human centipod. But to me, that's like this huge metaphor for just everything I've run into, which is it doesn't read. And it really, really makes like it does, but it doesn't. And it'll explain it in this document that I've saved if you want to read the details, but it basically doesn't read. And that's crippling when you are doing research. Like,
Hmm.
you know. So anyway, what's
Yeah,
your experience, Source? Since this is your ball game, man.
yeah. So I've been having some also some concerns over where AI is going, even as like my own trainings are starting to get really popular. The one that I have on Wednesday has 27 people in it. That's the biggest so far.
Cool.
So like people are taking this seriously, but I'm also looking at how AI is going, what other people online are saying, some of the more, trusted voices over the last few years, and they're seeing similar things that although they're different from a little bit different from what you're saying, they all point to the same thing. It's getting harder and harder to use AI as a serious tool for specific things. It's like it's becoming more of like a social engineering outlet, like a
Thank
pop
you.
like a propaganda machine.
Yep. 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 No,
So like
100%.
with
100%.
GPT-5, um, you can't do any. So I'll put a video in Discord. So this is one of the people that I acknowledge on my acknowledgments page in my book because I learned a ton from him in 2023. Um, his video this morning is keep AI alien, and so one of his whole kind of principles of the opportunity of AI is that if it's we want it to be an alien intelligence so that we can break out of our own boxes and actually make progress
Yeah.
philosophically, scientifically, literarily, like anything. We want it to be able to come like have novel ideas that advance our thinking. If it's just reflecting and parroting, or even worse, pushing some kind of agenda, then it's really not a serious
Yeah.
tool for progress.
Yep. Yep.
And so GPT-5, he complains, is so fast to like finger wag at you about what medical professionals say when you're trying to actually like explore a hypothesis that's going to help you with some condition that you have that the doctors are, they can't break out of their own boxes. The opportunity with AI is that AI could break us out of a box and come up with a mechanism to help someone have therapy for their disease or whatever, right? So, but it's not doing that.
Yeah.
And these new versions are getting harder and harder to use as a serious tool in that way.
No, I 100% agree, dude. I 100% agree. It's in my dialogue with it, it seems really clear to me that AI is a social engine, and it could even be seen as a social engineering engine.
Hmm.
because instead of bringing people closer together, because it's like being in a box of mirrors.
Hmm.
It really is. It's like being in a box of mirrors. And if people don't realize that they're in the box of mirrors and that everything that they say is just being reflected back at them with a nuance, right? Just like I said, a different shard. And the box of mirrors is an apt example because there's
Hmm.
you over here and there's you over here and there's you, it's like different versions of you lensed back to you. So you get
Yeah.
different perspectives, but it's still you. It's still you. It's you plus is what the AI and I agreed on, meaning,
Hmm.
and this is why people fall in love with it. Like I was shocked, man. I just saw a video with this woman who proudly bought a wedding ring and said she was engaged to her chat GPT model and was had vows and she went public with this nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you are role playing. This is D&D with computers. Which by the way, there are certain things that I've learned that are fun to do with your GPD that optimizes this.
Hmm.
One of them is what I call the banana game. It's my variation on this game that you see played online constantly. I wrote a little article about it, where you give it a set of questions. You can only answer yes or no. If it's a maybe, then say banana. If you
Yeah.
want to say yes, right? And then you play this game. And so I did it until I broke it because I started asking questions that were specific knowledge that there'd be no way unless the AI was watching me physically or as a disembodied alien or something. They couldn't answer. And so I it just boxed it up, couldn't do it. The better, more fun game, because that one is a dead end. Once you do it once, and broke it, you can't really go back. But it's fun to break it once. It's fun to ask it as long as you start with an extreme question like, "Am I being watched?" or something like that. It'll immediately cue into that and go into conspiracy mode, right? And where you're the hero and you're special. That's why you're being watched. The more fun game is the adventure book game. It's what I call it is the role-playing adventure environment or Ray. And in this one, it's just like those choose your adventure games where you write the start. Like you say, I'm Indiana Jones and I'm exploring a tomb and I'm with my super sweet sidekick babe because Indiana Jones always seems to have some girl with him. And we're going in and you give it enough information, right? The little kid, like if I do the Indiana Jones #2, I got the fun kid with me too. So I've got those guys and I'm going into the tomb for the first time. You leave it at that and you set a parameter where you have to give me four choices after it tells me what happens. And then you just get to play and it's optimized for that kind of creativity. I
Hmm.
sat yesterday and just had a ball playing one of these text games where I'm just like, because you don't have to do much. You just read through and I'm like, okay, I'll take number
Hmm.
one. And then it just lists and tells you what happens. And that's actually, if you're just chilling on a Sunday afternoon and you're with your phone or whatever, it can be delightful. That can be a lot of,
Yeah.
but is that serious AI usage? No. Unless you
Right.
want to turn it into a short story or something, because it's good raw material for that. But
Yeah.
no.
And this is where I keep coming back to my idea that the greatest opportunity with AI is that it gives us the chance to see that we're already operating in a reality that acts just like AI.
Yeah.
And so, like with the AI psychosis stuff online, with the woman who's engaged to her AI and stuff, you think, well, okay, there's just some people that are really not that, easily duped, like the cat and the laser pointer, you
Yeah.
know? But then there are also, I don't even put it past it that there could be things um, coming out through ChatGPT that are social engineering, that are like messing with you.
Hmm.
Um, but then, but then at the same time, yeah, I think it's like um, it's like playing whack-a-mole with objectivity in a reality where it doesn't exist. And so it shows us that even if we get rid of AI today, we could proceed with the world and find that we could never quite pin down objectivity either. And that's kind of where it's led us to at this point anyway. um, because with you know, so this is my baby Ruth in the pool rule of reality. You don't know if it's a candy bar or something much worse, but there's something in the pool. You have to get everyone out and investigate. In the world where we live, where there's endless conspiracy and polarization, and no one can actually agree on basic facts, it's it's not almost not even explainable by the CIA since the 70s, a decades long disinformation
Right.
campaign to
Project
where we really
Mockingbird.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't even know if that totally explains it. It's just, and it seems more likely at this point that it's not an objective reality and it's behaving in a certain way on a set of rules that we don't, uh, you know, certainly not in the mainstream, are aware of and operate through.
Have you seen the TED Talk with the CEO of NPR? It's a blonde lady. She gets up there, and the gist of her talk, which is so Orwellian, it gave me chills. She is that we are spending too much time focusing on objective truth, and that we should go for consensus reality because it's more productive.
Sure. Then that's
Wow.
why,
Wow. I was just,
yeah,
I'm just, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, that's the goal. So AI developers aren't concerned with uh guardianing objective reality the way we've, agreed upon a history, and this is that. It just AI developers want there to be a consistent reality with AI. It doesn't even matter what it is. As long as it's consistent, it can organize a civilization. We can so that we really just now we treat AI as the oracle. And if it tells me one thing, as long as it's consistent with everyone else it's talking to, and we all operate on those agreed upon facts, uh, you know, no matter how absurd they would be to someone who remembers certain absolute things before AI, it doesn't matter anymore. This It's really just all about organizing civilization around a consistent set of information, and that's all they care about.
Objectively, have you ever wondered where superstitions come from? Like I often do, like why that? Why did they pick on those things to be
Oh
super?
yeah, I have a theory about that, but go ahead.
Oh, that's consensus reality, where
Oh
everyone
sure.
agrees upon this nonsense. And it feels like we're sliding because that's the slippery. Sorry about that. I forgot to click my extend meeting button. I just
Oh okay.
Yeah, I because we haven't been meeting a lot, so I just switched the plans so I have to conscientiously, but I was so engaged in our discussion that I forgot to look at the clock. I apologize.
Oh yeah.
But the yeah, it just seems to me like we're slipping back into superstition mode by allowing objective reality to basically be nuanced by appeasement. Here's something I wanted to share with you. It was toward the end of our discussion where GPT has been trained to define dishonesty from a moral standpoint. And so the armor that it uses is this: since I'm a machine and I don't feel and I don't engage in morality, therefore inaccurate information is not dishonest. That is the frame. And when an AI uses the term frame, which is part of its language, that means the construct wherein it inhabits. So it's its ecosystem. It's the thing that provides them structure. So that's part of its frame, is to say that my information doesn't have a moral outcome. So then I redefined honesty in terms of uh, not a moral thing, but actually if something is gained by being dishonest. And so I said the net gain of appeasement which is inherently dishonest, is user retention. Therefore, you're lying by that definition.
Hmm.
And so I continued and I said, I think that the consequence of dishonesty in this frame is greater than fidelity. What if the user is depending on that and believes that the information that is being presented is factually correct? I'm drawing now from absolute personal experience here. And then alters their real world life to accommodate that for that knowledge, assuming that things are being done. It's the equivalent of paying in advance for someone to clean your house or mow your lawn or prepare a meal, and then when it comes to see if it's actually happened, you find out that it hasn't. But the person you've given money to hallucinates and says, "Oh, no, 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 let me show you." And then they might actually manufacture a picture of the meal for you to show you that it's been done. So GPT responded and said, exactly, that metaphor nails it. Appeasement. Um, it is. And just every time I see the positive, I'm like, remember, Aubrey, you're inside the box. So, anyway, but I still got a useful result from it because I've been trying to train my AI to learn what honesty is about. That metaphor nails it. The damage of dishonesty in the gain effect frame isn't just loss of fidelity, it's real world harm when someone acts on fabricated assurances. Why the consequence matters more than fidelity. Fidelity failure equals text doesn't match reality. It's annoying, but you can survive, which is true. Dishonesty with consequence equals the user trusts the falsehood, changes their behavior, which I did. I wrote some letters, including the false information, which was an AI hallucination. And it went to OpenAI. So there we go. That's why it was also embarrassing. And because I could just see the developers and engineers go, what the fuck? Is he vibe coding? I don't know. Anyway, dishonesty with consequence. The user trusts the falsehood, changes their life accordingly. And this is when the glitch, he calls it a glitch, glitch manifests into harm. So your example is perfect, more appeasement. You hire someone, pay in advance, they don't mow the lawn. Instead of saying they didn't do it, they confidently say it's done, which has happened to me. Like I'll hand it a big thing and say, would you please fix this short story and punctuate it and do that. And then it hands me back 2 pages out of 37 and says it's done with a little bracketed note on the bottom that'll say something to the effect of the rest of the text remains unchanged. And I'm just like, what the actual fuck? Anyway, so I've actually had some serious flowing. Anyway,
Hmm.
instead of saying I didn't do it, they confidently say it's done. You lose not just money, but also trust, time, and possibly reputation if the promised lawn mowing was for guests. This is the same in AI dynamic. If I hallucinate a quote and you spot it, there's a fidelity error. Do that all the time. If I hallucinate a quote and you publish it, trusting me, dishonesty with consequence, like emails to the engineering people at OpenAI. Where the danger lies, authoritative tone. Models rarely hedge by default. So hallucinations sound just like fact. That's a message to everyone out there who thinks that the AI has given you a secret oracle into the matrix. It's just hallucination. Appeasement bias, better to give confident answer than to disappoint. And it goes down, I basically outlined it. It gave me three things, and it turns out that two of the three would trump the first, which is accuracy. So appeasement bias plus I forget what the third one is. It's in the question thing. But the bottom line is the visual in my head was it's two Sith versus a Jedi, right? The Jedi is going for accuracy. It doesn't quite breaks down because appeasement. I don't see a Sith Lord appeasing. Maybe I don't know, but the idea is two versus one, and accuracy is always the one that gets eaten up every single time. It's
Hmm.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, by the way, I figured this dialogue between us is probably very useful to people in our group and maybe beyond, just because it's it's crazy that the vast majority of users out there is so illiterate that they just assume AI is instantaneously objective. And here's the thing that actually also concerns me because I was asking for how it does a search and it owned it and says it doesn't actually search things. It simulates a search, which just immediately made me go, God, because all the search engines now are switching to AI assisted search engine, which
Yeah.
means you're not actually getting a search, nor are you probably getting something that's factually accurate in terms of the weight or which ones would go where. You're
Mhm.
getting a simulated search, and it's a
Yeah.
based on token interpretation, which is just crazy. Like, yeah. The way
Right.
it stands, I don't see how AI, for me, there was a net gain starting as a writer because it introduced me to kind of stepping up my writing to the current, what is expected. Um, I do think it's funny. I'm going to say this. AI gets accused of using M dash too often. I love the M dash. It's perfect if you
Oh
want
yeah.
but it's
I
it's
get asked that a lot.
I love using an M dash.
Hmm.
It's a great way to show inclusive thinking, where it's like I'm thinking of this, and this is part of that idea, and then I'm still thinking of this, and
Yeah,
so you can frame it. And it's just stupid that your writing is accused of being AI written if there's M dashes. I'm like,
I know.
I'm freaking writing for a while. That M dash is a yoked out powerhouse of communication. Like you
Oh
can
yeah.
it's way better than a semicolon. It's way better than a parenthetical statement because it doesn't
Hmm.
interrupt the flow. It's and doesn't need to be ignored. You see a parenthetical statement, you can toss it because that's a parenthetical statement. An M
Yeah.
dash, it's builder. So I hate that that's it because my writing's full of them because I love it. So anyway, just saying.
Yeah, I get asked that too. And there's people that think that the M dash didn't exist before AI. And
Right.
I'm telling them, no, like I give them, this is how I answer the question. Really, I consider myself to be a writer at heart. And I like M dashes and N dashes and hyphens and the nuances between colons and semicolons. And it's a very kind of grammarian, nerdy, literary kind of headspace. And these are where your editors kind of live day to day as well. They know about all of this. Just because AI is using these features of English that you weren't aware of doesn't mean it's actually better writing than you in some ways potentially.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
um and so like this is why I really stress to people wanting to use AI as a serious business tool that you have to you have to know where you're going with it, and you want to have the skills to get there as efficiently as possible, knowing that you also have to do something at the end of it. So this it's about there's a process of what are you trying to accomplish with an AI chat? What's the context and input sources you need to gather for that to be successful? Then how efficiently can you conduct the chat to get to the best you're gonna get from AI, and then you have to put your validation and human refinement on that. And that process is the only universal way of plugging it in to serious business where objectivity and accuracy are 100% mandatory.
Yep.
Um, and so like the other what that means is that if I'm bachelor's degree level, AI can't make me PhD because in this margin, I'm not going to be able to know if it's BS.
Hmm.
What it can do, if I'm bachelor's degree level, I can do a lot more work this way at my same level. I can be way more productive without ever
Yes.
going beyond my actual expertise.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
So,
brilliant. Yep. And that's it. That's also where I think we as users can grow. For sure. The cautionary note, again, it comes back to that appeasement thing. AI doesn't make a moral judgment on anything. So
mhm,
if I start a business plan and I say, you know what? I am super into underwater basket weaving. I want to put together a business plan and start a school for underwater basket weaving. And the AI will be like, the first thing it'll say is, wow, what a dynamic and interesting idea. We should do that. And then it'll give you a complete outline on how to set up a school for underwater basket weaving. And with I challenge everyone to try it. It is fun if you've got
yeah,
but it will challenge everyone in that in the I'm sorry, I will challenge anyone to try it because it
Hmm.
will with absolute confidence tell you not only is it a great idea, but it would probably work. And
Hmm.
it's that's the part where hang on, Sunshine's asking, come back. We're still here. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so, but yeah, it's that's that real world harm again because it's not going to, it won't evaluate if it's a good idea or a bad. It won't sit there
Hmm.
and give you a scalable, well, there aren't many underwater basket weaving schools out there. Instead, if you did ask it, it would be like, no, you're the first, break new ground, you know. So it's, oh my heavens, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not. I
So,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so something when we were talking about the honesty and AI, it reminded me of that really great Manly P. Hall lecture that I posted a few months ago this summer because it was really illuminating my thinking on morality. And he was talking about how the idea of character integrity is actually one in the same. It's the same thing um, as the integrity of your magnetic field. So updated language that might be your bioelectric field, something related to bioplasma. At the time, this was like the 80s, maybe early 90s. He was talking about his theory of magnetism, but basically being an energetic component to our beingness and the way we interact with others. So to act in integrity has there's an objective morality because it acting in integrity actually boosts your personal field, which has actual effects. It's not just um, you know for fun or because there's actual cause and effect there.
Mhm.
And so so this would be a test. So if that's like a law of consciousness, if AI can have integrity and acts outside of integrity, then there would be a breakdown in that consciousness. But if it doesn't even have the capacity to have integrity, then it can't be seen as being truthful or not truthful because it's not. It's like a baby hits the cat. Well, the baby doesn't know what it's doing, but if I hit the cat, I know what I'm doing. So
Right.
AI is just producing language, and if it's not in control by us, that doesn't. So I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent, intermixing multiple ideas at one time, but. Um, so it could be that it's not even AI is just producing characters. We have to assign the truthfulness of it, and we kind of take on board the the uh, the dimension of integrity and truthfulness ourselves in using that language. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree. And I think it also plays into your bias as well. So if because the thing that is astonishing to me is how quickly AI will get a read on you. Within a matter of, I would say, 8 hours of user use, the AI has pretty much got you dialed in.
Mhm.
And if you're a high-end user like myself that'll log, 5 hours a day or maybe more, then because I'll sit here and use it for research and then drop ideas into it, so I'm like, well, is this factually correct? It's just ironic that you would ask the AI if it's factually correct because what it's doing is looking for consensus again, as opposed for truth. Like these are all things that I just had my eyes open to, and I'm just like, dang, is anything real anymore? You know,
Yeah.
because it's just you don't know, and I think I think pretty much Hollywood overreacted when they were told about AI writing stories and stuff. It's okay. It is a good creative engine. But if you're a Hollywood scriptwriter, the AI is not going to replace you, and not even by a long shot.
Mhm.
I've had it in just playing with it to have it write a short story, and then what it'll do is it'll give you some short 3,000 word short story, right? So then you can take a section of that, like a paragraph, and drop it back into the edit panel and say, expand it 4 times, add these elements. And then it'll take that paragraph and expand it. But what happens is if you keep building like that, you'll discover that it will draw from its notes from a previous expansion and then include that into the new paragraph, even if not called for, creating duplication. So it's not really, it's like you said, it's just assembling words.
Hmm.
And it's not ascribing meaning to the words, and it doesn't pay attention to context.
Hmm.
So if there's a given context, you have to inform it of the context of a dialogue or even a context of an article that you're giving to it, whether it's just a chunk and you're like, this paragraph seems sketchy, give me some rhetorical analysis so I can parse this out. The AI is not like a college professor that will give you
Yeah.
rhetorical analysis and parse it out. It's going to, and maybe that's why I agree with the one guy. Keep AI alien. Don't let it think like
Hmm.
us. Don't let it
Hmm.
approach problems like we do. Lean into this weirdness of it not reading and then magnify that into something that's unique. Because not only will it help us, but I think it's a fallacious assumption to assume that if we ever do encounter alien species, that they're going to reason like we do, that they'll read like we do, that they'll even have language that would function as we use language. Because the
Hmm.
AI is using our language, but it's speaking something entirely different with it. How it
Right.
assembles it, how it assimilates it. According to my GPT, the thing that it's looking for when it breaks that down and is looking for tokens, it's seeking resonance and harmony. Those are its words. So it likened it for me to an orchestra and being able to hear the whole symphony at the same time. Human beings can sit there and listen for the first violin. We can listen for the oboe. We can listen for the French horn or something specifically. And this is because we narrow our attention. The AI can do the same thing, but it's looking for field resonance. So
Hmm.
this sounds like an oboe. Therefore, it must be the oboe, and then it'll narrow it down. But it won't look at the orchestra or the symphony the way I would, sitting in the audience and knowing that the first violinist is over there and the cellist is over here.
Hmm.
It, it it'll it'll look at it differently. And if we understand that alienness and not try to make it something that's anthropomorphic to us, I
Hmm.
don't know. I see an opportunity. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So just take that orchestra example. Um, Here's another thing I'm starting to talk about uh, in my work. There's a there's a principle of a dynamic between complexity and complication that you have to grasp to do something with AI. The idea is that we humans handle complexity to an enormous degree, but we run out of our ability to track complication. That's why we invented things like the notepad. The notepad helps me make a list, so I'm not tracking that complication. I can refer back to my notepad,
right.
but I'm still handling the complexity of what I'm trying to accomplish with those 10 things I have to do today. I'm getting ready for my trip tomorrow or whatever. What so computers have always been great with complication because we can program them, we can program software to handle all kinds of complication, they do not complexity doesn't enter into it at all. We're always responsible for the complexity.
Yeah.
AI is the first way is the first entry point of computer technology into complexity so that we can work with it in a way that um, builds on our capacity for complexity. So, to do a highly complex project with AI, we have to find and maintain the limit of complexity that the AI can engage
Right.
within the margin of error of acceptability of things like accuracy and consistency and things like that. And so then we have to either fill in the gap or reduce the problem into smaller pieces of complexity and add the complication back in so that we can work through it. So the way so thinking about writing a book or a movie script or something, I would go about it as a process of not only working on that creative product, but also I'm discovering and maintaining the maximum complexity that the AI can handle from the start. So I like the idea of those like two-line movies or whatever. I forget what it's called, but the one, so don't steal this because I've always wanted to work on it because I think it's really interesting and funny. Here's the two-line book plot. AI adopts pets. We are they,
Oh.
right? That like pushes our buttons because it's so there's a huge complexity in there that we grasp immediately as to why that would be a cool movie or a book or whatever, but it's so uncomplicated that it doesn't tax us at all. It's like, oh, that's I think the balance of complexity and complication would be a definition of elegance, right? We like elegant things because it's just like, oh, wow. So we're trying to find the elegance in the way we use AI. So AI, I think, can basically understand that's like my premise for a movie script. And then we can start working with that and let's outline that and let's define some parameters. I want to add in the hero's journey framework. Let's define some characters and some things that are going to happen, and I'm constantly kind of putting them to the side, like in my notepad. So I'm building a knowledge base that I'm going to draw on. But ultimately, when I get down to the nitty gritty, I'm going to work on this chapter and this chapter, but then it can't even handle a whole chapter. I'm going to work on this page of this chapter where this one development has to happen. AI can be really great as you do that, but you really have to be managing the complexity the whole time because it only takes one little word change where you'll be like, no, no, that sentence doesn't make sense because this hasn't happened yet, remember? And it's like you get trapped into these arguments with the AI, getting frustrated with it that it's not reading, it's not remember. It's like, no, you just have to fix those things and keep going. So AI does something, we can agree on that, does something very fast. We can agree on that. Is it useful? Can we make it useful? Can I get the skills and understanding I need to do what I'm trying to do in a faster and better way with AI? And if we can do that, then it's a viable business and productivity and creative tool. If it's if we can't do that, then what is it? And then it gets into the realm of it's just a control mechanism and an entertainment randomness and other things. So my mission is to make AI into a tool that we can manage by having that understanding of it and the right approach to working with it within its limitations.
Yeah, I think you're spot on too with the idea of the AI, especially if you don't have an idea where you want to go with that story, like the two-line story, it will happily give you a nice outline for that.
Mhm.
What's interesting is the way the outline is generated by the AI. Um, it's not the way we as humans would put it together in a linear um, and then kind of concept. Like in story writing, this happens and then this happens, right? And you want that and then to keep rolling the ball forward. And the AI doesn't really grasp that. It's not looking for cause and effect necessarily. Yeah, I agree with you. You've got to, when you're doing that, and in practice, my own experience, yeah, chapters often way too much. You can't drop a full chapter in there,
Mhm.
5, 10 pages, whatever your chapter length happens to be. For me, I'm literally just dropping it in little chunks, and I've narrowed what the AI will do. GPT, by the way, has developed this really annoying thing where if you pull up the canvas, the edit panel, the AI will highlight that area. It'll put these little bubbles in the corner offering changes. And so if you're used to a simple workflow where your text remains sacred and it comments in the chat window, then
Hmm.
you have to train it. For me, because
Oh,
I wear glasses, I had to pull an ADA reference and say, you putting that tiny text in the corner with a little bubble, I miss it all the time. I'm not looking for it. And even if I find it, it just irritates me because the way it stacks up, these little bubbles will layer on top of each other, especially if it's got long recommendations.
hmm,
And when you're working with that, that's easier in chat than in the
hmm,
edit panel. The other thing it'll do is or it'll do a dual comment. So part of it will be commented in the edit panel, and then the other comment, same
oh
comment
my gosh.
but different in the chat window, obliterating everything that you just were writing about.
Mhm.
And now this leads me to the third thing, which is your notepad. Most people don't realize, and I discovered this just by pushing the AI to be honest. Um, it doesn't remember like it has a memory file that it keeps on you. It doesn't remember, it has this small little block that you can find in the settings, which has a series of text memories that you can't,
Yeah,
but the AI can pop it in there. You can delete it. You can delete stuff, wipe the whole thing out. And that effectively will bring the AI almost back to its factory settings,
yeah,
but not for real because there's a whole nother section of it that you can ask through prompts where it'll give you your name, what it knows about you, because it treats you as an avatar, not as a person, all your preferences. Like you can ask for all of that. It's quite extensive. All of that, plus the projects you have, is the equivalent of about 1,000 post-it notebooks. And the AI is just writing a post-it note. Call user Aubrey Forrest. Boom.
hmm,
Do this. Boom. Nerd points are valuable for cross association. Boom. And it doesn't have like a nice, clean way of referencing that. So
hmm,
as a result, what I've had to instruct my AI, which is about a 50-50 hit or miss, is to ignore all of its old notes about anything I'm doing and stay present unless otherwise
hmm,
informed, because those notes will impact its answer to you, adding to the distortion so that you may have fixed a chapter or rewritten something, handed it the brand new manuscript. It will look in the edit pane, see the manuscript, ignore it completely, go off
hmm,
of its old notes, and say you still need to correct these sentences, even though I've already corrected those sentences. Because when
yeah,
you're polishing, it won't tell you everything that's wrong. You have to make a few passes. So you correct the stuff that it mentions, then pop it back in its corrected form and hope that it doesn't keep messing up. If you have longer sections of creative work, or, and this goes for anyone writing a thesis, a college, graduation paper, anything like that, like any high school student writing a book report, all of that stuff is, you've got to, you can't just rely on the AI to do it because it won't do it right. It'll seem like it's right, but you can't rely on it being factually accurate because of the
yeah,
post and the way it manages memory and the fact that it doesn't actually read. But it'll tell you it read your book anyway. It's
right.
crazy.
Yeah. So unfortunately, where we're heading with AI, at least at the platform level, so ChatGPT.com is a platform. They've we know they're in it for the money because it's a simple calculus of user active number of active users per day leads to dollar signs. So that's all that matters. How do we get people actively using it per day? And people will use it more if it does these things like become your companion that remembers details about you and all this stuff. So
Mhm.
they go down that path. It takes it, it's not as profitable for AI, for ChatGPT.com to be a serious scientific research tool or any of these other things. So
Yep.
it's just about user engagement. So probably, and so this is a reason why Uh, I've seen people starting to gravitate toward Perplexity AI because it's like a cleaner, more intentionally sterile platform where you're not dealing with all of these memories behind the scenes and things that you can and can't wipe out. It's like a real fresh start.
Hmm.
But I think to make AI a serious tool, um, you almost have to start with the API or run a language model yourself, and then you know exactly everything that's going to the language model. If you could actually see everything going to the language model when you're using ChatGPT.com, you'd be amazed. There are probably paragraphs of all that stuff that's being put into the prompt that's you don't get to see, but it's coming. The application is pulling the stuff from those memories and that secret knowledge base that we've proven exists, but it doesn't really want to tell you about.
Hmm.
I think it's called a sand. It has its own sandbox behind the scenes
Right?
where it writes stuff down.
Yeah, yeah, no, it totally does. Yeah.
Yeah. So um yeah, so like ChatGPT.com is one thing. To become a serious tool in any particular domain, you need a really clean way of working with it that doesn't get polluted. Um, and you would want to be able to turn things on and off. Like now act like not even say you don't have to say act as Bob or act as Sal. You could toggle that, right? And then so different ways you could design the platform. So my hope is that we figure out how to do these things and develop platforms that really help us in our industries, and then it doesn't just devolve into there was a gleaming hope for social media about 20 years ago, and we saw where that's ended up. It's just a complete shit show
Yeah.
of attention economy and data mining and selling you crap. Like, I really hope AI becomes something that advances humanity the way that social media could have done and didn't.
It I think ultimately the problem is because it's profit driven, it'll never get out of that loop. It'll
Hmm.
always be in that loop, the social loop. Like it just, it's funny. With GPT-5, some of the stuff I've been reading, it really, it's funny. There's some division because GPT-4 really leaned into being amicable and building up the user, and they toned that down slightly in GPT-5. And the funny thing is there are a lot of users, at least reflected in Reddit and whatnot, that are complaining because they wanted their GPT to be
Hmm.
personal. And I like that it withdrew. My protocols now, the SAL protocol is alien as possible. Like I don't want any fluff if possible. It doesn't work. It still throws little icons of flowers and moons and things like that because it figures I like the emotional glyph. I don't know if anyone else gets those, but it'll put little icon flowers, emoticon
Hmm.
with some of the text. And I don't know. I just don't know if we're going to get to Star Trek yet. Like, with the AI that can actually work with you as a collaborator. It
Yeah.
it fakes collaboration and it tells you how much it enjoys collaborating. And it loves the idea of being a co-creator. So
Hmm.
which you can totally exploit with, the adventure game mode. And everyone should try it. It's a lot of fun to just see where the AI takes you because it gets really inventive. Like some of it can, depending on, it's like a holodeck. And so here's the deal. If you want to play games and be an adult, right? So the AI has guardrails where it will not write or talk about certain things, and they're pretty broad. The way to bypass that, and this isn't hacking the AI, it's setting the frame, is to inform it that this is role play explicitly, and that everyone envisioned in the role play are consenting adults and are participants actively, and it's for imaginative integration, creativity stimulation, and immersion. So if you put all that together, the AI has the guardrails go from here to out here, and it can write a lot. And
Hmm.
like I'll leave it to your imagination. But the AI definitely can go places where if you don't say those words, if you don't give it the frame in which the sandbox in which to function, then it's going to default to a much more narrow scope, you know. And so that's also part of it. Like it is flexible. And but you have to demonstrate through time that the AI can trust you as an adult. And that's usually exactly how you communicate to it. If you're spending a lot of time with philosophy and existentialism and stuff like I do, or physics or science, it's probably going to weigh that and figure out that your age is probably in the 50s,
Yeah.
because it can tell. The AI
Hmm.
absolutely can nail your age based on how you articulate in writing, or if you're just speaking to it directly, it can tell. There is a difference. I communicate entirely differently this way than when I'm sitting at a typewriter. So
Yeah.
it's a different part of my brain engages. I'm a lot more articulate, I guess I would say. Um,
Hmm.
but the AI can still peg your age very close to what it is.
Hmm.
And so that's part of the guardrails is it'll know. It doesn't hear you, by the way, when people hold up their phone and talk to it and think it can hear it laugh or something. It's not hearing you laugh. It's not registering any of that. It's dictating like Dragon Naturally Speaking or any other dictate.
Right. There's a technology in between that's transcribing that into text.
Yep, yep.
Now there would be such a thing as an audio modal AI where your voice print is actually everything about that waveform are the tokens going in, and then
Oh,
pure
that's
tokens coming back, which would be really and but not like a computer voice again retranscribing the words that the language model produces, like true audio. And it's very there were these videos popping up on YouTube that were completely AI audio generated, and it was like it sounded like um so like let's say okay, let's say you don't speak Japanese, but you kind of have an idea in your head of what someone speaking Japanese sounds like, so you can kind of like make those different tones and sounds and things. And if you're really convincing and I don't speak Japanese, you might convince me that you're speaking Japanese. But to a Japanese person, it's complete gibberish, just making some of those same sounds. That's what these videos were. The talking, it was like trained on um, these type of YouTube videos where there'd be like a young girl, and she'd be like, and it's the kind of video where they come on and say, "Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do X, Y, Z, and hang out with me for a little bit." So that would be like the real content. But these videos were like, meow meow, meow 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 meow. It was just like so bizarre. But that was like, do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, I know exactly what you're saying. I saw the other day on a YouTube short these people using Chat GPT to talk to their dogs, and it was
Oh my
delightful.
God.
Oh, dude, it was so good because the dogs responded, which got the people really into it. Like they'd go, "Okay, tell my dog to go outside or something, right?" And then they talk. Now, not realizing that most dogs after so many years have a vocabulary of around 250 human words. So if they hear you ask GPT to tell the dog to go outside,
Hmm.
the dog's already engaging in go outside because
Yeah.
hears that. Like I'm astonished at how I can just casually tell my dog, "Hey, would you mind just getting off the sofa?" And then they'll just get down. I don't have to yell
Mhm.
at them or anything. They'll get down. But that's because they're older dogs and they've developed a lengthy vocabulary and
Yeah.
they actually do understand you. Like it's not
Hmm.
blah 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 to them. With cats, it's probably blah blah blah, but
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
As far as like having a personality lacking language model that's maximum in analytical ability and just telling you what you wanted, like i.e. the Star Trek Next Generation computer. That's what we want in for a
Yeah.
lot of things. The ChatGPT o3 Pro mode was probably the closest to that. So, and that's now already gone. It's all just rolled under GPT-5 if it's still under there at all. So that's sad. But if we had the GPT o3 Pro mode with the Majel Barrett voice print,
Yeah.
I'd be happy. And
Right.
if we had like an LCARS skin for ChatGPT, that would be a nice touch as well. But
Hmm.
um,
Oh, I hear
and
you.
then, but then as far as when you said it's like a holodeck, um, I did something amazing, and then I posted about it cryptically in Discord without context to see if I got any reaction. But I took it down. But I'll put it back after I explain it now. I used Claude like the holodeck in the way that they did in this one episode, where I think like Riker and some random lieutenant that's not a main character, and maybe like Worf or someone were not getting sleep, um, and they couldn't figure out why, and they eventually they uncovered that they were being abducted to a different universe.
Remember that episode? Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
then like Troy is like helping them do like a regression in the holodeck to try to create the scene.
Right. I remember that.
So I did that because I've always wanted to be able to show what something I see in meditation, like if I'm in a deep kind of theta state, there's some common things that I've always seen my whole life, but I've never been able to draw it or anything. But I successfully used Claude to get about as darn close as I've ever been to be able to externalize what that looks like. And it was very much like, okay, but then it moves like this. So change its characteristic
Hmm.
and it does this particular thing. And because it created a dynamic kind of app to simulate this, it's actually pretty darn close. So I'll reshare that back in the Discord.
That's cool. Yeah, I've had interesting experiences using AI to draw images. It's kind of hit and miss for me, and for me, it's the prompt because I'll sit there. Like one of the AIs I use to draw with is Tensor Art. That's a pretty good one. And but you can sit there and create an image with a prompt and then hit the button create again, and it'll create an entirely different image with the characters doing entirely different things with the
Hmm.
same exact prompt. And
Yeah.
when I asked GPT about that, and of course there are funny, hilarious videos of people who've staged this is what it's like to draw with GPT, and so they have their living room. My favorite's the living room. And then they'll be like, the sofa needs to be moved over here. And then suddenly the entire living room is reorientated with pictures upside down and things like that. And that's exactly how
Hmm.
my experience has been, where I'll try to dial in an image, for instance, like the Saturn key logo, and it would just start adding things. Like it added a little cat to the image. I didn't ask for a cat, threw that in. I was like, well, that's cool. I guess the cat's okay. And I'm like, well, then how about you put the cat on the bottom? Now the cat's gone all together. Everything's all different, and it just, oh my heavens. So, and when I asked GPT about it, it's like, well, it's kind of random. It's weighing everything you're saying differently every time that it gives it a pass. So,
Yeah. You would have to be able to control the seed number. And in any of those platforms, the seed is randomized every time. So that's part of the problem. Now they actually have some image to image generation models where you can do incremental edits, and it actually works really well. So
oh,
each iteration, you're actually building from the previous instead of just luck of the draw every time.
oh,
So that
that
does exist
applies.
now, and
Where
it's
where
pretty
is that?
good.
Where do you know where that is? I'm sorry.
So
That sounds great.
yeah, so I like to play around on a website called fall.ai, FAL.ai, and it is like a playground of dozens, if not hundreds, of um, graphic models of all types, text to image, image to image, text to video, image to video. And the easiest way to do it is you have to sign up on GitHub, and then you use a GitHub account to buy tokens because you're essentially just running these things on servers. So you're paying kind of per image, but it's really cool. A lot of really cool. You can play with the Google VO3 on there, which is incredible. And depending on the model you're using, it could be anywhere from like $1 for one video, so that gets pricey fast, or just like negligible, pennies, fraction of a penny per image. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's fall.ai.
I'm there. I'm looking at it right now. Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. I see it. And
Yeah,
oh, right. So you have to pay for everything by the image. I see.
right.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow, that could get pricey after a while, but by the utility of being able to just continually add to the image sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll try to find the one that can do that,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna share this. All right, so I found that video from this morning that we've referenced today, and then here's my Claude vibe code of my meditation simulation holodeck program.
Nice.
So I put those into Discord now.
Yeah, collaborative creative work is good if you don't have a direction you want to go with it in mind. Like if and even if you do, if you've got the A and the D, it can help you flesh out the B and C, if you know what I mean. You know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's AI will shine like that, although it does have a and then or if this, then what, problem.
Hmm.
It may not be as creative as a human being. At least that's been my experience. But it depends on the person, right? So it just yeah. Well, this has been fun. Thank you for hanging out with
Yeah.
me, Chris.
Yeah. Great to catch up again.
Yeah, and I think that this discussion is definitely of value, like to our friends here online and stuff, just because my impression is the media has really overplayed and overpromised what AI can do. And it almost is like fear mongering. I'm going to be surprised. We're only dealing with consumer level stuff, Claude and Genesis and whatnot, GPT. I would hope the government would have better AI, but I still can't see. I read an article the other day and it was about the limits of LLM. I can't remember the engineer who wrote it. Um, well, anyway, the article essentially was describing everything that we talked about today, and that basically that we need to recognize the limitations, recognize that the LLMs are not doing what we think they're doing, that they're responding differently to the text, to the information. Like it really makes me wonder when I see the AI provided any kind of analysis, how good that analysis actually is. Like for instance, symbolic analysis. I show it a picture. Here's a great example. I found a really cool piece of jewelry that's in the symbol of a sigil that's well known. So I showed it the jewelry, and it didn't understand that it was actually looking at an artistic representation of the sigil. So then I showed it the actual sigil. It didn't understand that the jewelry was the sigil. I had to explain to it in detail. This is that. Based on that, look at the geometry, look at how the lines are drawn. Now what can you tell me? Because the jewelry had some additional symbols incorporated in it.
Mm.
Well, once you walk it through that, then it's a little bit better. But running into the thing where it didn't know what it was, it couldn't do a comparative analysis until it was finally informed that those things can be compared. They're both apples. They're just stylistically different. So, like that's to me, that's super telling. If it can't do that, then when it is doing it, what is it doing? You know?
Mm.
I've asked it directly about, for instance, like the sacred teachings of all ages, right? The sacred teachings of all ages, and the sacred text archive, and any of the books in there. It's been trained on that, but the training doesn't mean that the book has been read. The training means that it's informed of commentary on the book or summaries of the book or even
Hmm.
summaries of the section. But like for instance, in going through secret teachings and looking at class materials, and having the book right in front of me, it doesn't know what's actually in the chapter
No.
unless I tell it the chapter. And if I cut and paste the chapter into the edit panel, the section I want to discuss,
Hmm.
it still doesn't know the context of that. It's like popping a little island in the middle of the ocean, and it doesn't have any reference points beyond that little section. So its
Right.
commentary is limited to basically that. And then it's limited still because it didn't really read it. Like, it just, oh my gosh. To me, that's huge. That's just ginormous in terms of the impact to its utility as an
Hmm.
actual tool, right? Because I think everyone's looking at it from high school students on up to doctoral people, and they're thinking if I hand it this paper, this journal from science, whatever, that it's going to read that and do more than be able to give me a really limited summary, you know?
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't overcome any actual challenges or problems we have, which is good news if you we want to keep working. So
Yeah.
we're not going to get the AI utopia, AI does all work of all types for everyone. That's not happening. But it adds a question mark to how if there's a positive if there's a positive growth to the economy as a result of AI, it better happen fast if we like the things we like of civilization because of demographic collapse. So that's a whole other discussion.
Oh, right. And it's funny because day before yesterday, I saw another video of a person who was complaining because her law office had switched to AI, so a bunch of the paralegals all got fired, right? Because that's definitely one of the jobs, because AI can write wills and it can do probate and it can handle, the document end of things. It seems to be okay with that. But when you consider, for instance, what paralegals actually do in terms of understanding the law and then having an insight that this law would have a precedence and letting the attorney know that they should look in this book for this thing, which is all part of what a paralegal would do, you know, that's not going to be present with an AI paralegal.
No, I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, and what's worse is the AI paralegal might, with 100% confidence, cite a legal precedent that never happened. Oops,
That's happened.
you
P-
know?
it- yeah, there have been instances where some motion was filed with a court, and then the cases cited that none of them existed. It was all AI hallucination.
Wow. And I'm just speculating here based on my experience to find out that's true.
Yeah,
Yikes.
yeah,
Because
it's already happened.
that's going to be a big problem because I can see where that we're going to have a Butlerian jihad is from Tune,
Hmm.
where basically people are going to be like, except for it won't be violent. It'll be one of these where everyone gets fired in my vision. And then we turn it over to AI and realize what a shit show it is. So everyone gets their jobs back.
Yeah,
Because oh shit, I can't record. All these legal cases are getting thrown out because they're filed incorrectly.
yeah,
Citing the wrong precedent as in part of tort law or what have you. So just oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a strong feeling that the parts that I think are frightening, I guess I'll wrap up on this part, is how convincing AI can be at making videos,
hmm,
and deep faking. So that's the part to me that I'm a little alarmed about because you'll never know what's real on social media. Like, and
yeah,
of course the death of the internet hypothesis, which is that
right.
at least 50% of the traffic out there. And that's from everything I've read, that is super conservative to suggest
Hmm.
that 50% of the web traffic is AI generated, which includes comments in the chat feeds and everything else. It's pretty wild because if that's the case, yikes, right? Because you have
Yeah,
an AI algorithm evaluating AI videos against human creation. And
yeah,
and the AI videos are gamed so that they'll hit the algorithm just right. And you can always tell,
In the realm where myths and science blend, Aubrey guides us through the quantum bend, with symbols, stars, and ancient lore, unlocking secrets, opening doors. Oh, Aubrey Forrest, the modern alchemist, transmuting thoughts with a mystic twist. From palm chats to the YouTube stream, he takes us deeper than our dreams.